put together this BNTM on stability challenge in post-election Salone, and other members there also. And the focus of this report make I want to welcome again Andrew Lavalley inside the program as a member of this coalition. It represents the IGR inside the program. Good morning and welcome to the program. Good morning, Salone.
Good morning, people on Radio Land. Good morning, listeners. Yes.
As I give the background to listeners, them on the civil societies, them we come together and put this report where stability challenge in post-election Salone. Now we look at this report and first start with the reason behind putting this report together.
It's actually a release. It's just a press release. So we just come together, we discuss waiting at the challenges, and then we see, because everybody will get an opportunity for discuss those challenges and see waiting at the way forward. Salone, the world be done, pride way for progress in democracy. So, just before this election, in fact, 2 days before the election, Afrobarometer put a report say, while the whole world on the reverse in the last 10 years, Sierra Leone actually they go before. But after the election, we get a lot of, tension. And even before the election, we now see some reports with IGR with the talk about polarization. So like the division done they really, really sharpen, it done the deepen. So and after that, because you get a lot of civil society that we watch the reports, observe in their own ways, we say, let's sit down together and discuss what are the challenges that we don't identify and how we go talk to authorities, appeal to authorities and our government, our opposition, and even the international community for let them address those challenges then. So if you give me an opportunity, I will just go through the challenges then quickly.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the first one really where we identify the misuse of social media. Of course, this would only talk about them, but this is not the first election this way social media actually became a threat. I mean, they get messages from abroad, they talk the attack. Like me, so I don't get a lot of people and they even banded me face on social media. I say, go kill them, go hurt them. In fact, so we say back, the head of new, Marcela Sambasi saying a fly out, we see the US embassy talk about death threats. So then are all like concern. We look like Ibrahim Tommy. People in no more they defend democracy, and democracy actually means plurality of voices. Everybody gets right for your own opinion. But for let you take people and family, you target them, you talk to let them go harm them across the divide, across civil society. I think it's really bad. So we feel say government and international partners then for take them seriously, or try for solve them. The other one we will identify, we realize the struggle for resources, because some people they talk say now, if APC win, how many go they? If SLPP win for the next 5 years, me they back in our opposition for the next 5 years, me condition go bad. So all of this now in would put on election. So it's the one the way they manage the election, the security forces, the electoral commission, they're not really in a comfortable place because all of them problem there with the HIPAA on elections. So one of the things that we really civil society they strongly recommend, how we forget a diverse government where everybody go get a stake in society, where everybody go feel say, I am in this country and I'm actually part of this country. So then the second one. The third one, survey will do where they should say the election, President Biodi win the election by 56%, but that's a survey. It's a forecast. That forecast can come true or it can't true. But we see back 4 days before the election, another group, when Basita Michael, people are really, really critical of the government, then say pull a survey, an opinion poll, where they show say President Biodi lead Dr. Samora Kamara by 13 percentage points. In fact, they don't caveat no more. They say they don't know if election they go runoff by the data. New on election day, on polling day, then say pull the PVT. The PVT report they show say Bio was more popular than Samora Kamara. The only problem we knew get is say this election could go to the second round. Then NEC pull a final result where they show say President Bio gets 56%. Why am I saying all of this? I say this because across all the data we will see, whether the data they for, whether the data they against, there was one thing that is common, that President Bio gets popular votes. So for let you get One group where they talk say, no, me no, they accept that result day. Where all of the indicators, all of the data points that show otherwise, I think say it amount to election denial. Let me finish. The other point now, the openness of the Electoral Commission. And we see down inside Boku election observer reports. The election observers then, some then talk say, let NEC, the ECSL rather, let it release the data at the polling station level. And as a matter of fact, we associate ourselves with that comment day for say the Electoral Commission, because then people that vote down they get for release all at the polling station level. Then intolerance among party supporters, that's another one we key, because we don't see say some after this election, some man they go attack, then compete them. So at the some people they give them tenants and notice, say they pull this. So all of this they show say, if we not handle post-conflict tension, it will bring instability.
Now, we can look at the issues that Moon don't highlight as problems na the electioneering process. But somebody when they listen to you now, you don't name civil societies where you get diverse views them. For these 80 civil societies, we come together and put this press release in form of a observation in post-election fragility. Somebody they listen go want for know, wouldn't have some of them civil societies there also we come together and form this coalition and put out this release?
The list is very long.
Some.
The list is
Unnotably.
Yes, the list is very long. So in fact, you will get in fact whole day, just in the interest, there was a lot of disagreement. At the end of the day, the report was actually read by a SMC member, a senior member of the team, management team member for the National Elections Watch, and I actually read the paper. There were about 10 civil society who then talk, say, no, we disagree. But as a matter of fact, we didn't then, then kind of conversation, and then you get people who they agree, people who they disagree. So there was disagreement as to whether we even put new. Then talk say, no, not for put new. Now we say, but how will you be discussing critical election issue, like for example, police? We talk say the policing is a challenge. So if IGR is a problem, we get for state IGR is a challenge for the election. So because of that, you get about 10 of them. We then talk say, no, we cannot even sign to this. Of course, it was not a signature. It was more consensus around waiting at the thing there of everybody. And there is now a difficulty for Lewis Sierra Leoneans that agree on how they move forward. The reality is, if the Electoral Commission get an issue, if national elections work on the part of civil society get an issue, if the way the international community they relate with we is an issue, if government not open and not inclusive is an issue, we therefore discuss all as Sierra Leoneans and get a way forward.
So in all of this, in terms of the over 80 civil society, one thing we people go on know about the neutrality and interest of the civil society, because it's clear for say concern only come out from the public, say most civil society don't align with political party, whatever you see then take the center stage now for their own self or because of the party within the what you go say in that context.
Thank you very much. The thing we call neutrality, in fact, that plurality of civil society is a beauty. Subtle. Where civil society they market woman them, they get them belief. You get civil society where they even politically aligned and get them belief. Where that diversity there, that rich diversity there, now the true meaning of civil society. Some people like if you say, no, civil society all for go one way. No civil society no they go. In fact, if you bring today two civil society, let them can't debate one issue, then get divergent views. That is the true meaning of civil society. But when it comes to the core values of our institution, like for example, defending the rule of law, like for example, protecting justice, like for example, being fair, being honest to the truth and holding truth to power. So I think that value they will not for compromise them. So it was in line with that the way the 8 points then come, and when you watch the point themselves. The first person we talk, he actually come up from Bombali. Where he talk say me the first concern we will get now the way resources are distributed. And when you see somebody come up from Bombali, somebody come up from the northern region, resource distribution will be key to them. under a regime where they feel, say, a predominantly Southeastern. So, yes, we come to neutrality in that. And of course, there is always this difference between what you would call neutrality and what you would call politics. Civil society is not expected to be neutral. We have to take sides where democracy is under attack. If it is under attack by the police, if it is under attack by government, if it is under attack by an observer group, you should not be neutral. You therefore take a position.
So in terms of taking a position, is it that the position for in the interest of the public or that of a particular government within, enrolling at that time?
No, this is not in the interest of anybody. This is in the interest of Sierra Leone. You know why? And I start with the premise, say, Sierra Leone done the build democracy. The democracy hold on the bill. If at all, country like Guinea, the slide, if at all you go Ivory Coast, people in the slide, but if when it comes to Sierra Leone, democracy, they actually take hold. If we get an election, people then cast doubt on that democracy, we need for go to the bottom of and investigate. Sapti, you don't know, Una already listen to me. If at all you get an election where people then feel say a problematic, that country then democratic aspirations will be challenged. And it gets implications for investment. So that accusation they get for be true and honest. Just because you are a staff of 98.1. When you're discussing challenges in the media landscape, if 98.1 is a problem, you get for discuss them. So that's the thing. So if IGR, law talks say IGR on professionalism become a problem for democracy, you have to discuss it. So now that make, just like how they discuss, you know, some of the key inclusive process we all been there. So you go see say there are practices in other countries who say the PVT process is actually advertised. You see them online. You see them the sampling, for example, is being shared, so you actually see them. So you see say all of that. So that inclusivity was a lesson for 2018.
The program where they talk to civil society representative and one expert with the 8 key drivers of fragility in Sierra Leone report where some says with them pull do this bien.
I done it now for about 10 years. I get experience with data. I do research in data. I don't publish so many papers using data, and I don't read a lot about the PVT systems as well. So I get knowledge on the PVT exercise will happen in Sierra Leone.
For somebody that listen to you now, we don't get from Andrew Lavalley, we don't highlight 8 key points them on the election fragility or stability challenge in post-election Sierra Leone, and you are an expert here. You don't talk about your knowledge and know-how on this. Now we look at the issues here. So how Salone reach at this level of then its challenges there. So we Andrew Lavalley highlight earlier, with some of them denial of election results and also diverse views from civil societies on the electioneering process, and also they get to do with social media threats. Yeah.
So are they focus more on the point number 3 where Andrew began earlier when the PVT systems result, and probably I will delve a little more into other areas later. But I did more at the focus, okay? After reading widely about PVT systems, like how they don't implement around the world, there are 3 things which are supposed to happen in any PVT system, okay? So many things, I'll summarize them into 3. 1, it forgets high uncompromising standards, very, very high standards. PVC systems not supposed to be opinion. Not an opinion poll like how Andrew B. talked earlier said, and conduct opinion polls and people say, no, President Biogo win. PVT systems now fact, the standards will be high. Now the actual election data then they're supposed to collect. That's 1. 2, PVT systems are not supposed to be partisan. It will be neutral, it will be very, very independent. The person will conduct the PVC system will be independent as possible. The one that will go collect the data at the polling station is supposed to be independent and not partisan at all. The results will be reliable to a point that nobody knows for question. It will be as inclusive as possible. All the stakeholders will be involved in setting up the PVC systems. It will be transparent. all the stakeholders, including the voters, including the political parties, including the ECSL, for know exactly what they go into the PVC system. Therefore, know the methods. Therefore, know which polling stations they get for interview. Therefore, know how the sample size come about. Therefore, know how they do the sample selection.
So looking at the point there is okay. Continue.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not done yet. The second point is it will be statistically very, very standard. If we use very tight parameters and the methods will be clear. What do I mean by tight parameter? Statistics get assumptions. When they do the calculation, they get for assume this, they get for assume this. The most important for PVT systems are, first, how homogeneous the population is. What I mean by homogeneous is, or heterogeneous is, how people, what are the voting patterns of Sierra Leone. If you take Freetown, for instance, it's normally 60-40. If you go Bo, it's probably 90-10 in favor of SLPP. If you go Kono, it's different. If you go Falaba, it's different. So Sierra Leone, a very, very heterogeneous country. So you get for take that into consideration when you draw up your sample size, as well as selecting the polls that we get, the polling stations that we get for interview. It will also be very, very forget the highest levels of transparency. So those are the three key points where PVT systems forget. The standards will be high, the statistical parameters will be tight, and it will be very, very transparent.
So looking at the issue here, we come out with so we very key and important for the necessary body they know, but another view they say why at this time already the election has been concluded, people let them move on with their normal life. Why coming out now with them point here where people for don't consider before?
Very, very good, important question. Very good question as well. Because at this point, it is at this point where the PVT result don't come in. It is at this point where the international community they show apprehensions towards the election. They look at doubts. They look at the credibility. They question the credibility of the elections based on the PVT results will come out. So we need for tell Fambo then how these PVT results actually the influence or actually come about. Okay, so it's very important for talk about now because it's at this point that it don't even come into being. PVT exercise will be happening in 2007, 2012 to 2018. It will be issue. But this one don't be issue.
So why you think it's an issue this time around?
So many reasons. One, this time around they show the PVT result as if na elections result, which is not supposed to be. Two, it's not transparent like how we don't say. Not so many people know what's go into the thing. Three, the data not out there. Nobody know what's happen, and we need for know.
So many concerns, on the June 24 election from civil society, international observers. So then point here with the reason from the civil society point or from the state and rightful authority winner is exactly.
The points that we are the reason from a statistically technical point.
No, the fault we they talk about now from which angle or from which institution them.
Would I
the
get
fault we they talk about for say the area of the PVT, the things away for.
So I'm not there for fault anybody. The fault can go around everywhere. I'm not there for fault anybody. What I try for do here is explain how this new will put out these numbers, how they arrive at these numbers, and what are some of the doubts that we may get in these numbers where they arrive at.
So this is all about new that you report where they bring out,
yes.
Telling the figures, of the voting and percentage.
Yes.
And why focus on that?
Because that's not don't create the doubt, especially among the international community. Say they get apprehensions about the credibility of the election results.
So the issue again, people get so many concern about ECSL, when are the rightful institution get the mandate where it comes from all election and results. Is it that in your knowing or things that we get understanding on, ECSL in any way not doing anything we think say flout electoral process?
ECSL, we they call on them, just like how they talk about me, we they call on them, they say let them come out and defend some of the things that we people that they accuse them of. We they call on them for letting them release the young polling level data as well. If anything wrong, na ECSL na the entity where they are conduct, na get the right for conduct the elections, na announce the elections, then go able to come talk about themselves.
And when you look at the election, the observers raise two main concerns them. One get for do with the arrival of logistics at the election polling centers them, and the one final one get for do with the tabulation system or the tally system. You as an expert don't follow the election. What's in your view or take on the issue of tabulation or tallying of the final result?
So the arrival it can only be a problem if people that were supposed for votes end up not for vote. If the materials they arrive late, let's say they arrive at 3 p.m., but then everybody will want vote at that police station, be able to vote, then that is not really an issue. It impact the outcome of the result. The tally system, I don't hear about the intransparency in the tally system. I don't hear about those things. If it make myself the join civil society for layer ECSL, show me the polling level data. However, really what I want to talk about is how new arrive at the result, where they say now 51%, the president forget, and therefore the president not supposed to win on first rounds. Now then result in the hour will talk about how they arrive at those numbers.
So waiting in terms of arriving or try to talk about waiting new state, it go very important to listen and viewer they know when your own system and structure where you work with, whether you get for can say new right or wrong for bring out the your result and things that we then find out if out to the electoral process.
Absolutely, good question. One of the pioneers of PVT system na NDA, National Democratic Institute na the US, they get so much material on their website. They publish a whole handbook on how PVTs will be conducted. So most of which they talk about recommendations from the NDI website as well as their handbook.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Some of the recommendations then.
Okay. So like I said earlier, I focus on the statistics. NDI say when you conduct this particular poll or this particular exercise, you use very tight statistics. One, you're confident, waiting for your confidence level. What's that confidence level? Confidence level is how, let's say for instance, what you come up with, say 51% 90 president forget or 50% 90 president forget. Confidence level they tell you say no matter how many times you counter, for instance, if they say 10% and 90% confidence level, that they tell you say if you counter 90%, it will be 51%. But there is 10% we will be out of work. Waiting NDI they suggest the confidence level for be as high as 99% minimum. Okay, if it be 99%, that means if 99 people they can, 100 people they can counter, 99 people for arrive at the same result. One, okay, that's not one. Two, we get what they call the standard error or the margin of error, however you call it, the margin of error. Then the variability around the result. New then report to them pool, then get a margin of error of about 2.7%. NDI suggests the recommended design margin of error for be less than 0.1%. Okay? NDI new use very, very high margin of error. And why is this too important? Because if you want your confidence level to be high, the sample size get to be really big. If you want your margin of error for be that's low, your sample size get to be really big. So that's how then two things here relate to what new do. New use only 750 polling stations. Okay, where I use, Mr. Go and calculate this thing, and I get if you want to, I will give you. Where I use the same parameters where NDI don't recommend. The minimum number of polling stations where new for don't use is about 3,700. But I know say resource availability can affect that. Resources not there. So NDI also suggests you can relax down the probability to about 0.2%. If I drop that to 0.2%, the minimum number of polling stations where they don't use now slightly above 1,200. Ghana use 1,500. Chile use 1,400. Cambodia use 1,400. There is nowhere in the world where they don't use less than 1,000. So I go look for no. I'm not saying what new do wrong, but I go look for no how and why new use only 750.
We can discuss more of that inside the program in him. Professor Adam Stevens, University of Maryland, the program Good Morning Salone, they come to you from the Society for Radio Democracy.
A senior management team member of NEW. So where this man they talk about inclusivity, you even have some members of the election body, the election monitoring body that were not included. You know why we're doing this? We are not, let me finish. We're not there for discredit anybody. If there are dark clouds on with democracy as a country, we are in a problem. And when you look at what's happen, you don't get an election where we don't just elect 30% of the elected parliamentarians are women. For the first time, we get the biggest civil women's caucus where they go na parliament. And the whole Africa, in fact, most part of the world, they don't credit Sierra Leone for the aspirations we they make. So if there is something when I storm in the teacup, I think it's just but proper for law discussion. To me, judging by what Professor Adams they just say, we ready for take the National Electoral Commission on. All of them in a way the electoral observers, the international observers then say, like in the complaints the way APC been get, we ready for take them on. One of the things where they help with, now we will lead agency where they observe the election, we not new. Like then conditional way Mr. Professor Adams, they talk about like openness, like the accuracy of the sample size. If then just, we all get limitations. If they share that sampling there with we study them, as civil society, in fact, one part of the thing that they talk, we can actually take next to court. But new get for help, we now they don't want to slow the process. Let me just read something. This is not the manual this way, new for follow. And Professor Adams, they just talk about the criteria. You get 3 key criteria where local observer missions for follow. The first thing, now access to data. So the question is, did NEC give them access to data? At the polling station level, yes, they did. The next question is, did they input the correct data in their system? Now, only at this time now, because where you do the PVT, for share the polling station. Because if you share the polling station, there will be sensitivity around it. But after the election, if you share the polling station, and we're able to match now with NEC the results, and if we're able to know who's had the problem there, is the problem with NEC? Is it about we own data system? So that are the first one, access to data and the accuracy of the data. The second key thing, now credibility of audiences, credibility with audiences. You know why this is important? Sierra Leone so polarized. The moment Lavali talk, right now if you go on social media, you can see some man that they cost. The moment Marcella talk, you'll get some people they talk, say, me, I don't believe this, I don't believe that. Waiting always important. Now, where they bring all of them stakeholders together in a room, they actually defend the democracy. In 2018, the TOB make the PVT so good, where we pull the PVT, nobody not being opposed them, is because of the credibility with the stakeholders. There was quite a good relationship between with system and Infa Ali. In fact, before this, I asked the Electoral Commission, have you have access to the PVT sampling or the methodologies? They say no. So as a matter of fact, in fact, the NDI, they call them quick count. You know what quick count means? Say, technically for run election, easy. It's a logistical nightmare. So that quick count PVT they do, it actually give the Electoral Commission, say, I know say you get a lot for do, but at the end of the day, let me finish. At the end of the day, this not the picture where they come out. Then they actually compare notes. And the most important thing, where a kind of democracy where they mature, waiting that kind of system they do, it actually build confidence with the public. Because if you build confidence with the public, it go difficult for let somebody go deny the elections, right? So now that make if you go like place like Ghana, where Ghana be they do them PVT, then do for the election, the organization where they do the PVT, they make a skit, then put on a newspaper, share the sampling. If that thing and they're not known to the public, then you can't publish something. Now in the lead to then controversy. And all day, if you go look. I think say just look at page 13 of the manual.
So you self make mention of the 2018 and new being predict in 2018. See,
now we all been doing
the election get for go runoff and it went on runoff, and again new predict again this time around. But now there is an issue or concerns about these predictions. Who's the missing link for the 2018 and 2020?
I think that inclusivity, all the whole institutions to stand up, because like right now. We all want NEC published polling station results. Let there be openness. On we part as civil society, we do likewise. Sometimes if I want to publish a very sensitive data, you know what I can do? I call APC and SLPP in my room, in our offices. Sometimes they would take half a day workshop. We just go through the process. In fact, the manual I recommend say, whose idea is polarization and people will not trust both, you really get for bring political parties in the room. Say when I can't observe the process. If that thing not happen, you go see say, Where if you pull them, one group they argue say this is not correct. The another group they argue say this is correct.
IG are a member of NEW?
No, we are not.
But
in the last standing together, it was not just NEW. You had 50-50 group, you had IGR, you had Westminster, you had Search for Common Ground. It was a standing together for democracy consortium. And let me tell you what you don't know. Before this election, we actually tried for activate the standing together. We actually formed a WhatsApp group. We tell people and say, we all receive funding from different donor agencies. But in the interest of Sierra Leone, I say thanks to Fatu Taki, let us coordinate, let us collaborate. We did not. Some people, they just refuse for coordinate and collaborate. So now we have a situation where we get this kind of situation where part of we data, this person believer and this person are not believer. So I believe say that's a lesson we need for land from 2018 and 2023. Okay. Moving forward, we need to get processes, we're inclusive. How, for goodness sake, we can pull some of we polls them. We don't pull opinion polling somebody. No, Lavalin, Dana, SLPP. If I want to put a system together for check the election, we get to make sure see all shades of opinions, including who don't believe me, they're part of the room.
That opinion, if you say SLPP not true or not?
It's absolutely false.
Okay, continue for the with me, Andrew Lavali, Executive Director, Institute of Governance Reform, and also member of the over 80 civil society. We put a press release outside and state 8 points where they consider as a challenge in the post from University of Maryland, and also an expert on data system. They make some of the things we for make up a quality PVT data system. You don't state some of the things that you consider say no go right in a particular civil society. We bring out a whole information as in given figures of the just concluded election. In all of this, waiting on your objective, as in waiting Professor Adam Stevens really want for achieve doing this, bringing out now this information at this time, looking at the fact, say, the country election numbers?
Good question. Thank you very much for asking that question. Just before I go answer that question directly, the other point I want to make about the data collection system, where I feel say the key cause for doubt the result. I'll just talk about that. And then the selection of the sample themselves. So I don't talk about the sample size, why I'm concerned with the sample size. Now I talk about why I'm concerned with how they go down select the sample. We don't really know how they select the 750 polling stations.
What do they say we? Who do they refer to?
Everybody, okay. Besides new. For instance, they get 750 with the poll. If you take out of that 750, if you take 300 Naya, 300 na Bombali, and the rest you take on Akenema, Dr. Samura wins on the first round with over 70% of the vote. Similarly, if you go Kailan, you take 200 na Kailan, 200 na Kenema, 200 na Bo, and take the rest na the North, Madabio wins by over 80%. So it's very important for let we know how they come about for select these polling stations there. So then I will wait la answer in question. Then the addition that way I will make. Your question is why are they come out now? This is very good. Why are they come out now? Are they appeal to Sierra Leoneans as well as the international community for let us look beyond these numbers. This 51% where they say I'm supposed to forget, or this 47% where they make people some people they question the credibility of the election. Let us look behind these numbers. What do you make up these numbers? The data we go into these numbers, they're accurate. Let us look at those. Let us ask those questions. Do we then collect this data here? Then get any political biases? Would I conduct the entire PVT? Get prior motivations? That person will get political leaning? But let us ask these questions. So I appeal to the international community, don't not just run away with these numbers, but let actually sit and look at these numbers and look beyond these numbers and see what to come up with these numbers. For instance, there is a diabolic video going around where a presidential candidate actually they both say, now he helped one of the observers for raise fund. And these observers, some of the apprehensions, they imply say they support this particular presidential. This is very bad. This is not something where we're not supposed to encourage. No. So I would like for we all look beyond these numbers and try to address some of these things.
Now, asking plenty questions about the neutrality of new, or the staff them or the workforce of new in the election, and also looking at the process we then use for to arrive at the conclusion. Somebody where they listen to you now go argue say or go tell you say this is not the first time we new don't they observe elections now Salone, and then they come up with predictions over the past years. Why you think say this year you
I've just
or
answered that
different from
question.
that?
This
He's an expert. You are
Yeah,
civil
this
society.
question- yeah, this
He's
question
an
we don't
expert, and they are
I go
data
answer.
experts.
I go answer. Where I be they give the three things where PVT systems or quick count systems forget. The last one where I give, I say the highest levels of transparency and inclusivity. I talk about that. Anywhere where it happen in Ghana, where it happen in Ivory Coast, where it happen in Cambodia, where it happen in Chile, everybody come together. In fact, in all this, they actually call the political parties. They come into a room and explain to them what it's about. They show them the methodology and then tell them, say, now this amount of polling stations will get for a poll. So that is the difference here. Here, you ask APC person, they don't know what went in there. You ask SLPP person, they don't know what went in there. So we need to know why the transparency, why the secrecy, and if any of them biases actually creep into the results.
As a data expert, you in any way where you get this from new, try for cross check with then doubts here where you get with them.
I not get access to new, but I do my own cross checks, and if you want, I will explain that as well. I do my own cross checks there. One thing where I check is then predict say the turnout rate nationally for be 77%. Okay, I take some polls and randomly some polls in Freetown, than the north, then they are around 75, 76, 70% turnout rate, which match within them predict. I take some polls in Kailahun, Kenema, Pujahun, then they are above 90%. So that they tell me say the sample selection be somehow underrepresent the polling stations in the southeast and overrepresent the polling stations in Freetown and the north. And that go result to biases.
That are your findings?
That I say some tests where I do. Some basic tests, I just look at the results and within the post. That's one. Then second, after the first rounds, the 60% announcement where they announce, new come out and say, correct. Say this result's correct. So I take a trend of that one day, I subtract the total registered, waiting left, I use new the 77% voter turnout rate, then I use that trend in that result and calculate. If I do that one day, the president gave about 51%. But if I go in there, and change the voter turnout rate in Kenema to the actual rate, 90%, 92%, the president gave 56.5%. So that they tell me, say, there is issue there with the sampling selection method. We need to understand. I'm not saying you get them wrong. I just want to know how they do it.
So my point to our is why the objection on all the things that we the point at so long would just focus on new and not ECSL.
I also the focus on ECSL.
But you just been talking about new here.
Yeah, because you don't ask me directly about ECSL.
Well, I talk about ECSL.
I talk about ECSL now. ECSL as well. They need to come out with the polling level data. Nobody not going to compromise that. That has to happen. And they also need to come out, because if you look at their numbers as well, some inconsistencies there across the numbers, where anybody can ask question. And if they ask question, it's incumbent on them themselves to come out and explain why these inconsistencies. For instance, themselves, I look at the announcements, okay? That's 60. If you look across, the first 60% where they announce, each polling station get like over 350 people will vote. The second batch get about 38 people will vote. So, but overall, they get 265 people will vote now each polling station. So overall, very correct. But how they split and how they get it wrong in that splitting, they need to come out and explain the inconsistencies to me.
Quick one. Yes, a quick one. Sapti Kalon online now. We did join Khalifa Kurma from the National Elections Watch in the PVT data coordinator. We get them online for response to some of the concerns them we studio guests them don't raise over the data we them put out for the June 24, 2023 election. Hello, good morning and welcome to the program. Good morning, Salone.
Taxling's Michael Sambula, and good morning to listeners out there.
Yes, welcome to Radio Democracy. Good morning, Salone. and we get a studio guest them, and from where we put out our data, different concerns don't come up from different quarters them, and we get two studio guests them this morning, and especially we get Professor Adam Stephen from University of Maryland. We don't they ask plenty questions about the system and how we arrive at the conclusion for una PVT data we put out to the public. For listeners, them we they listen to you and view on the Good Morning Salone Facebook page. How we arrive at the conclusion and how we put this PVT data together for SECA the June 24, 2023 election.
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, I want to tell listeners that say this PRVT, what we call process and result verification for transparency, nothing we don't do now Salone. This is the fourth time we don't do Salone. We do them in 2007, we do it in 2012, we do it in 2018, and we do them in 2023. So I will just talk about a couple of things, right? I see Professor Adams, where he reference NDI, the National Democratic Institute, so many times. You know, I know the paper where he read under the PRVT. I know it's available online. Anybody could go online and look at NDI, the methodology already they use for the PRVT. Interestingly, the same in the reference, now NDI will give technical assistance to do the PRVT this year in Salone. I had a technical assistant very close to me where I work with. In fact, even before I fly from the United States, going to Salone to conduct the PRVT, I go na Washington DC. You know, even with my expertise doing PVT from 2007, even with my expertise in that, I go na NDI office at Washington DC. We go through the PRVT. We go to Apollo, when are the system we use for the PRVT. Okay, I get training from NDI. Okay, so all in NDI reference. I just want to let people listen and know say National Democratic Institute that with technical experts who work closely for this PVT in Salone. Having said that, I also want to go to some of the things the way I already say. I know everything, but just a few stuff that we talk. Make I just talk about the one, and then I will come to with methodology and how we arrive at with findings. I already talk about say no synod in the world within the use 750 sample points na PRVT. That is absolutely false. It's absolutely false. First of all, a random with the sample we use, that's 750 out of 11,832 polling stations in Salone. Okay? And these sample points were generated statistically, and they are representative of everything that happened at Salone. They were proportionally distributed across the area. Now, let's just debunk waiting the professor talking now. Okay? In Côte d'Ivoire in 2020, they did a PRVT, right? And the sample point was 750 points for 24,000 polling stations. 24,000 polling stations. The sample point was 750. We do sample points of 750 for 11,832 polling stations. That's one thing at the debunk. Number two, another country, in Kenya, they did 700. In Kenya, in Kenya in 2022, they did 1,000 sample points for 46,000 polling stations. In the year 2022, Kenya, at the repeat 1,000 polling points for 46,000 polling stations. In Nigeria, 2023, they did 1,500 sample points for 180,000 polling stations. So the way the professor talked down it was erroneous, it was misleading, and it's disingenuous.
According to Professor Steve's in assumption now that it more likely that una take more sample size na the north than the southeast. For somebody where they listen to you, who say una draw una sample size from?
If you're not taking this extra step when
Okay, make I go and make I tell listeners. Okay, so before I tell you how we sample point distributed across the country, but first of all, I'll just repeat and say it's a statistically representative sample we do. Now, random sampling now we do. Not to which dom and select polling station them outside them for go now the country. Not to also we do. We sit on a computer. I was part of the process. NDI was in the middle of the process. Then I was technical experts. We sit down. We put all the polling stations in the country. We put a formula, now a computer, and we do a random sampling. The computer now inpick polling stations. When the computer pick polling stations across the country, the computer make sure say the formula will put to make sure say it represents all regions of the country, it represents all districts of the country, it represents all villages, all wards of the country, and it take into consideration the homogeneity of the voting population. It take into consideration the heterogeneity of the voting population. What will the time for talk about? Now the extent to which people they vote, how the voting patterns of people in the country, it take into consideration, Danny. Because we know say in Sierra Leone there are strongholds in different parts of the country. There are strongholds. There are parts where APC, there are stronghold for APC, there are parts where there are stronghold for SLPP, and so on. And with that point, also take into consideration population density across the country. So I can't do now the distribution when the formula, when the computer really draw up the data, when it draw up the sample, I will tell you how we distribute them. And you will note the distribution of a sample point. Now by the population density, you take that into consideration largely. So for example, Western urban, when the computer did the distribution, it gave Western urban 130 sample points. Western urban, because Western urban is very populated. Western rural gets 74 sample points. Pujon gets 26 sample points. Moyamba gets 34 sample points. Bond, Island and Mainland, the districts of Bond, get 25 sample points. Oh, get 70 sample points. But Loco gets 53 sample points. Karine gets 23 sample points. Zambia gets 35 sample points. Konkolili gets 46 sample points. Koinadugu gets 19 sample points. Falaba gets 16 sample points. Bombali gets 46 sample points. Bono gets 39 sample points. Kenima gets 71 sample points. Kailang gets 43 sample points. When you put all that together, it gives 750 sample points. So now, with distribution be there now across the country.
Now, you talk about according to population distribution. Is it this sample size informed by the census results or the registered voters by region?
Thank you very much. The population, the way we do it, represented by the registered voters. Registered voters, not census figures. Now, registered voters. So when we don't the time for generating sample, we look at all the polling stations. What are the polling centers we get? Then we look at how much polling stations then are every centers. But now then we put it together. Now then we draw them from. And then we look at registered voters also. Now I'll tell you one thing, 98.1 and the listeners all the world over. When we come up to sample points, we find out the polling stations in Abo district was 1,106 polling stations. Now in Abo districts, okay? We percent of total polling stations. Abo district was 9.3%. Okay? We put 70%. The percentage sample polling stations is 9.3. So they look at the total polling stations and the sample points, not the same. This is how we verify with sample. What don't go with sample? This is how we verify with sample. When you look at the difference between the total.
You don't talk about the sample size and who say una draw the sample from and how una arrive at the conclusion for put 750 sample size out. The questions now way or the concern from Professor Stephen or Andrew Lavalley now the issue of inclusivity and also the availability of this data to the public for scrutiny. How somebody where they listen to you now or view on Facebook will get access to this data?
Fine, thank you very much. In fact, I don't even know why people then say this. I don't know why we listeners so my studio guests and they say this, because we don't hide nothing. We methodology it day out there even before the elections. New call a press conference. So let we talk about we methodology, we overall observation strategy. Now Brookfield Hotel, we hall be full up the big Brookfield Hotel hall. It be full up. We call press I call them the press. We call civil society organizations. In fact, that we observation strategy day. Now, ECSL, one of the commissioners of ECSL, in fact, now the chief electoral commissioner, now we call for make it go launch with observation strategy. I recall, but he was engaged in other activities. So he sent the commissioner of the South, I believe it was, so let it go launch with observation strategy. The woman this Sunday listen to the entire observation strategy when we talk about, and we go in depth about the PRVT methodology. We go in depth about them. We explain them and we distribute with observation strategy to everybody. We make copies of them and distribute them to all the guests at the hall.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me inside the program. You've been listening to Khalifa Kurma in the National Elections Watch new PVT data coordinator. And we talk to Radio Democracy Good Morning Salone and they answer some of the questions them and the concerns them with Professor Adam Stephen from the University of Maryland and also Andrew Lavalley don't raise inside the program Good Morning Salone for SECA the data we then put out for the June 24, 2023 elections. And quick one, Andrew Lavalley will go only they become a colleague in the council before we join Khalifa Kurma online. They come to Adam Stevens. Sure and Opsi, plenty of questions them Khalifa don't answers to them and instead when they follow the program.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make you know, say, the questions where they ask is, I know then go don't refer to NDI, then go don't ask NDI for technical assistance. That is not what I'm questioning. What I the question is the parameters we go into the decision why then for use 750. For instance, if they talk about, say, in Kono na 39, polling stations they use, in Kenema na 71. These polling stations, they should be affected more by the heterogeneity than the population, than the number of voters in there. I will tell you why. For instance, in McKinney, we know say 90% of them, they vote one way, okay? Just 10 polling stations go able to capture the entire sentiment about McKinney. Whereas in Kono, we know say na swing state. If they go this way, if they go that way. So taking just 39 at Kono and 71 at Kenema, way much more homogeneous, it really not tell me the entire story. So my questions where are the axis? Let them show me the parameters. I know the question where they say exactly, but like, judging from just these two things what you call, there are some things wrong. So let them show me the parameters, how they arrive at this.
So Hale, I ask you if you in any way don't engage them before you take on the media, because new day na Salone, the office day na Salone, we get them concerned yeah, for don't engage with them and ask some of them questions there so and arrive at the conclusion for your analysis. Yeah.
No, I don't ever engage them.
Why?
I don't get a way for engaging for. I only talk about this because the result come on the 28th after elections, and at that time I know say there are problems here. We're not going to just fly with this. International community not for just supposed to fly with these numbers. Let's look behind these numbers.
Okay. Professor Adam Stevens, continue for the week. Over to you,
Subtip.
And definitely not say you get something for say concerning to what you qualify say.
Subtle quick one before Andrew Lavali can say producer don't signal to it because we don't go beyond time. Don't give 15 minutes. Now it's 9 after. Andrew Lavali point quick one.
Thank you very much. So me
asked.
can just want, I know say we'll not get better time again. I can just want for end for empower citizens. You know, something and they not finally it be saying as so Andrew Lavali say, you self get for be empowered for ask the right question. I'm glad the way qualify in Professor Stephen, they actually converge on one point for say the NDI now been the technical pull down there we actually guide the new process. And you know, NDI talk about three things then, where you call about the prerequisite. And I could just want to read one side where I want to end with. I don't discuss the access to the data, the issue of credibility. You know what? If I think so, the biggest problem with the entire now the openness and the inclusivity of the group of members we do the process. You know, people can get perception, but we all, from President Bio to the least speaking as Salone, people can get perception about we all. So NDI very clear. It's a two main components of credibility and competence and independence. There are two main components. To promote the image of competence, group themselves have to behave in a transparent manner. Therefore, advertise, therefore, publicize. I see Khalifa don't talk about them. They should publicize their plans, their methods, which should be sensible and feasible. Like me now, you know, I just wish like actually like on newspaper you actually see them, but we don't pass that stage. It said the key audiences must also see quick count sponsors as independent. If you don't know where they fund we, if I get a donor where they fund IGR or where they fund new, if APC SLPP then get issue about them, then that one day. So in fact, it end up for say, if we're not able to meet all of them here, you actually need just go page 9 of the quick book, and just if you go page 9, it talks say you need for even bring political parties now the room. So at the end of the day, like me, Andrew Lavali, I'm not going to run with something. I go always say, look, you representative APC, look, you representative SLPP. For a society we're so polarized. So waiting help in 2018, I don't know why we really veer away from them. In 2018, we publicized the PVT without any question because all of we been in at the room. So like me now, so as me, I consider myself as an election stakeholder.
Okay.
If you publicize them, I not really know certain things then I think say there must be some. We know talk say then do bad. I think say in last level, waiting really required now actually the data. So if they're able to share that data, I think
now you don't talk about inclusivity now the new them process, and if you get from Khalifa say before the election, then engage different stakeholders, them even the electoral commissioner. The National Electoral Commission, where the commissioner not be able to attend, but he sent representative day, and also different stakeholders them. Now you talk about inclusivity into the process of
Musa, at the challenge you say, even you only know about this sample today. You where they asked me this question. So the question.
No.
So
they talk about inclusivity.
No, so
and Khalifa make mention of that inclusivity and how they open up the space before the election.
No, you get there is. You know, where would they in civil society work? You get what you call, you know, they invite somebody for participate, and they also make people then share control over decision making. So not when you call people to a meeting and share what you get is different from when people then share control over decision making. In processes like this, stakeholders have to share control over decision making. That's what they call inclusivity. Not when you call them to a meeting, say this is what you have.
Okay.
So I think say like in 2018, we did quite a lot of that. Because Search for Common Ground, Naina be the consortium lead. We'll all been there under new IGR 50-50. We'll be the jointly take decisions together. I think say moving forward, we'll not for sure down the off. We actually need all the donors that we didn't get within the fund with. Therefore, no say Sierra Leone is so polarized. Election decision making has to be inclusive. Not just take Andrew Lavali in your ward, or you take Marcella Sambasi say in your ward.
Okay,
you get for make sure say we all are on board for jointly take decisions on behalf of the country.
In line with the way forward, waiting, the over 80 civil society plan for the next, especially when I don't make 8 points, I want to consider as a challenge and post-election. Anyway, for present them point here to the rightful institution them.
yes, we are doing that, and some of the things that they would share. I believe, say, Sierra Leone, we now a country, we don't go through boku difficulties, including the war. We dey go over this one as well. Me they encourage my colleagues and Khalifa, Marcella, let's come back. Lord can rebuild the country. So of them here, we can discuss them and done with. And let us learn lessons from this. The international community, government, NEC, even political parties, they have a forum within they meet. We're at the election steering committee. I think it's about time we actually sit down now. We reflect on what happened in 2023. Because me feel say, with democratic standards in Sierra Leone, is still very high.
Okay.
Is it about what's wrong with the election? So what's how we go wrong as a country? So instead of with tempers flare, because most of the things and the will become emotional about them, we can actually go wrong instead of we actually consolidate the peace and democracy.
Plenty thank you to you, and Valina name, Executive Director, Institute of Governance Reform, and also ECA represent over 80 civil society organizations. Them also them pull a press release where they state 8 points them where they consider as a challenge on post-election. Over to you quickly, Professor Adam Stevens. You did talk about teaching for consider. In years to come on the next election, when a good and standard practice.
So the 3 points where I highlight earlier, those are the 3 points we all follow. Let them hold on to very high standards. Let them make clear the statistical methods within they use. Let everybody know that this thing they do. Let them tell how they arrive at the number of polling stations or the sample size and how it get for be distributed. They no need for disclose which particular polling station they get for go to, because that will create problems. But let them tell you how they do. And when they don't, let them make the data available, as well as like ECSL making data available. So we'll be able to compare the two and see if there is any discrepancy. We'll say the discrepancy come out.
Okay, well, plenty thank you to you, Professor Adam Stevens, from University of Maryland, and also expert on data system, where you can give your view on the data system where they use in the election, and also we get Andula Valley from IGR and represent civil society of over 80 organizations outside them where they highlight points them where they